Howdy folks, RangerH here with RangerH's School of Bushcraft and Self Reliance. I'm not able to get out in the woods for any kind of scout or overnight this weekend, but I wanted to go ahead and show you one of the tarp shelters that I use and how to put it up. Okay, so what I've got here, as far as materials go, I just have a 6x8 heavy-duty poly woven tarp. You can get these at any store that sells outdoor equipment, Walmart, Academy Sports, Dick's, Bass Pro, wherever. And then I've got a few 12-inch ABS plastic stakes. Now, I'm in Central Florida, so I have 12-inch stakes. If you live in a part of the country that has a more sturdy soil, more sturdy topsoil, you might be able to get away with some shorter stakes, maybe a 9-inch stake. But here in Florida, where we've just got sand, I use the 12-inch stake, so I actually have some hold. The other thing that I have is a couple hanks of paracord. These are each about 3 poles. That is 3 wingspans of mine long, so somewhere around 18 to 20 feet in each hank. The last thing is I simply have my scout stave or trekking pole. You don't need this, but I'm going to show you how to set this shelter up freestanding, which is one of the reasons that I like it. It's very easy to set up freestanding if you don't have any acceptable tie-off points on a tree or something like that. The first thing that I'm going to do is decide where I want my shelter set up. And that's going to be based on the terrain, the environment, where the wind's coming from, all of that. I generally like to face the opening of my shelter southeast. That way I get the sunrise coming in the shelter. But once I've decided that, then I'm going to open my tarp up and lay it out in a diamond shape. And this is, as I said, a 6x8 tarp. So it has a long edge and a short edge. I like to have the long edge facing where I'm going to have my fire, which means I'm going to put the opposite point where I want my feet. And then I just come in here with a stake, and I have loops tied into each of the corners of the tarp, just little paracord loops so I can get my stakes through. But I come back here and simply stake that down. And push that in. And I never kick my stakes. I'll push them with my foot, but I never kick them. If I need to drive them, I use a tomahawk or an axe or a baton or something. Next thing that I do is I take another stake and I'm going to stake out where I want the back edge of my tarp to be. And this will not change. This is exactly where I want it to stay on the ground. So I come in here, decide where I want it, put my stake through, pull the tarp taut, and stake that down as well. I always make sure to leave enough of the hook of my stake above the ground that I can get another length of paracord underneath it to pull it out if I can't get it out with my hand. Now what I'm going to do is, like I said, I have 2 lengths of paracord, each about 18 to 20 feet long, and a loop on each corner of my tarp. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the loop of my tarp and pass it through a bowline tied in the end of one of my lines, and then pass that line back through the loop on the tarp to form kind of like a lark's head type hitch right there, so that my line is attached to the corner of my tarp, so I can pull taut against that. Now I take my scout staff here, and this can be any pole, obviously. if you did have trees, you would obviously not need your scout pole. But I'm going to decide about what height I want. I usually go for somewhere around chest height, depending upon the weather. Something like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and turn a clove hitch in my line, like so. And I'll bring you up close to show you how to do that. Okay, so the easiest way to make this clove hitch type knot where you can put it over the end of the stick is to simply take the cord like so with your right hand up and turn it over so that you have the working end sitting on top of the standing end. You have a loop here. And you do that twice. So now I have two loops. Whoops. Now I have two loops like so. And I'm going to take the second one, make sure that's in frame for you. I have two loops. I'm going to take the second one and put it behind the first one. And now I'm going to put my pole through here. Like so. I can take that, tighten it down, and now, because I have my two stakes in the ground, I can pull against this and it will stay upright, just like so. If I wanted to, I could probably put another half hitch in here just for extra security, or I could have used a constrictor type knot if I wanted to. But this clove hitch works just well, or just fine. So now I adjust where I want my upright to be so that it's straight up and down when I put tension on it. And now I'm going to take this line and stake it out. Whenever I tie a guy line or a ridge line or something like that for a shelter, I like to use what's called a trucker's hitch, because it lets me put a lot of tension on the shelter. It's very quick and easy to get down, and it gives me a lot of texture in my line, meaning I have loops that I can hang a candle lantern or something like that from if I so choose. And all that is, I put a simple slip knot a few inches from the top, in this case, from where my guy line attaches to my pole, and run the line back through that again. Straighten this out here. It's gotten knotted up on me. Come on. There we go. So I have here a loop formed by the cord running through that slip knot. Now I'm going to take this, come down to where I want to stake this out, and what I'm going to do is pull this line taut and look straight down the line through the pole, and I want that line that I'm looking at to be in between the two stakes. As long as it's in between the two stakes, that pole will stay upright. If I move to one side and line it up with the stake, it's going to fall to the back. If I line it up with the other, it's going to fall forward. So I want it between those two. Put my stake through this loop I've made, bring it down to where I want it, and I like about a 45-degree angle on this line. And I just press that in. And then I tie it off with the slippery half hitch. So now if I want to get this down all I have to do is take this tag end, pull it, and the whole thing will fall. The last thing I do for that is I put a security half hitch in here, either with the loop itself or with the tag end around the loop, which is usually what I do. Just like that. Now, this won't get pulled and undo that loop, that half hitch, but it doesn't take a whole lot to pick that free, pull the line, and the whole shelter falls. Now, I can go stake out my other corner and put another guy line on here if I want to. Last thing I do is I take my other line and I have a bowline in the end of both of them, and I simply turn that bowline over to form a lark's head loop here that will slip. Place that over my pole, crank down on that, and then I'm going to stake this out exactly the same as the first one, making sure I'm in between, my sights are in between my other two stakes on the opposite edge. Now with this shelter, as you can see, I've got plenty of headroom in here if I want to work underneath of it to stay out of the rain. What I could do is right here in the middle of the tarp, I could put a stone and wrap a cord around it as a toggle and pull it off to another tie-out point if there's trees available to do that, to lift up the inside of the shelter and create a bit more headroom for me. But for just a simple setup, this works great. You're shielded from two sides here, and on this long edge opening, I'd put my fire right here so I can get into this shelter and be completely covered and protected from these two sides and capture heat from my fire if I need to. Well folks, thank you for joining me for this short video on how to set up a PlowPoint shelter in a freestanding configuration. I'm RangerH with RangerH's School of Bushcraft and Self Reliance. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, like and share this video to help the channel grow, and I'll see you in the next one.